Hi, I'm Mary Stauffer. What I'm about to share with you is the most terrifying experience of my life. For 53 days in 1980, my 8-year-old daughter Beth and I were held captive by someone from my past, someone I'd barely remembered. This is my story, and I'm telling it in hopes that it might help someone else who's faced darkness and found their way back to the light. Let me start at the beginning. I was born in West Duluth, Minnesota, and grew up in Hermantown after my family moved there when I was 10. I had a wonderful childhood with my 2 siblings, and we all graduated from Hermantown High School. After high school, I went to Bethel College in St. Paul, where I met my husband, Irv. He was a seminary student, and we both shared a deep faith and a calling to serve others. I graduated in 1965, and before Irv and I got married, I taught 9th grade math for 2 years at Alexander Ramsey High School in Roseville. It was my first real teaching job, and I loved it. I was young, enthusiastic, and I genuinely cared about my students. Among them was a Taiwanese-American boy named Ming Sen Shiue. He was a good student, showed academic promise, participated in football and wrestling. He never caused any trouble in my class. I gave him what I believed was a fair grade and moved on with my life. I had no idea that he was developing an obsession with me. No idea of the darkness forming in his mind. After those 2 years of teaching, Irv and I married and went to the Philippines as Baptist missionaries in 1967. We spent a year there, came back, and I taught for a couple more years in North Minneapolis. Then we moved to Polk, Nebraska, where Irv pastored a congregation. Eventually, we returned to Minnesota and had 2 beautiful children, Beth and Steve. By 1980, we were preparing for another 4-year missionary trip to the Philippines. Our whole family was excited about it. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Ming Sen Shiue had been following me for years. After I left Ramsey High School, he apparently developed this dangerous fixation. Other students later told me he'd been obsessed with me even back then, but he never showed it. He was quiet, kept to himself. But after I left, something in him twisted. He began writing stories about me, fantasies that grew darker and darker. He convinced himself that the grade I'd given him, a B-, had ruined his entire life. He created this elaborate lie in his mind that he couldn't get into college because of that grade, that he'd been drafted into the Vietnam War, that he'd become a prisoner of war, that everything bad in his life stemmed from that one grade in my algebra class. None of it was true. He'd attended the University of Minnesota. He was never in the Army. He was never a POW. But in his mind, he'd constructed this entire narrative where I was responsible for destroying his life, and he wanted revenge. In 1975, he tracked down what he thought was my residence in Duluth. He broke into the house with a gun, intending to kidnap me. Thank God it wasn't my house. The people who lived there had no idea why this man was breaking in. But he didn't give up. When Irv and I returned from the Philippines in 1979 and moved to the Baptist missionary apartments on the Bethel University campus in Arden Hills, he found us. He stalked us from the woods outside our apartment. He knew our routines, knew our children's names, knew where we kept our spare key. He even knew about Beth's little makeup, Barbie on her dresser. In 1980, he broke into what he thought was our home again. It was actually Irv's parents' house. Irv and his father are both named Irv, which must have confused him. He held my in-laws at gunpoint, tied them up, and threatened to kill them if they reported it to the police. They were terrified. They didn't tell anyone until after what happened to Beth and me. Can you imagine carrying that fear and guilt? As our departure date for the Philippines approached in May 1980, Shiue must have realized he was running out of time. He tried to break into our apartment 3 more times. He used a blowtorch on the patio doors. He cut holes in the floor underneath our bed from a storage area below, leaving sawdust everywhere. We knew something was wrong, but we never imagined the danger we were truly in. May 16th, 1980. It was just a few days before we were supposed to leave for the Philippines. Beth needed a haircut, so I took her to Carmen's beauty salon in Roseville. It was a beautiful spring day, the kind where you feel like everything is right with the world. We were laughing, talking about our trip, excited about the adventure ahead. When we came out of the salon, I saw a man approaching us. There was something in his hand. Before I could process what was happening, he was pointing a gun at us. "Get in the car," he said. His voice was cold, determined. My mind was racing. This is happening. This is really happening. I looked at Beth, my beautiful 8-year-old daughter, and all I could think was, I have to keep her safe. Whatever happens, I have to protect her. He forced us into my car and made me drive. Beth was terrified, crying softly beside me. Then he pulled over, bound our hands with duct tape, covered our mouths, and shoved us into the trunk. The darkness that closed in when that trunk slammed shut. I can still feel it sometimes. Beth and I were pressed together in that hot, cramped space, and I could feel her little body shaking. We tried to make noise, hoping someone would hear us and help. He stopped the car twice to threaten us, to make us quiet. That second time he stopped, we were in Anoka County at a park. A little boy, just 6 years old, named Jason Wilkman was playing nearby. He saw us in the trunk and said, "Whoa!" Before I could scream for him to run and get help, the man grabbed him and threw him in the trunk with us. I felt this small body at our feet. "I'm supposed to visit my grandpa and grandma tomorrow," the little boy whispered. Beth whispered back to him. They talked about being scared. The fear I felt in that moment was overwhelming. Now there were 3 of us. This precious child who'd just stumbled onto something he should never have seen. The car stopped again. The trunk opened. He pulled Jason out. And then the trunk closed again, leaving just Beth and me in the darkness. I didn't know it then, but I would never see Jason alive again. He took that innocent little boy to the Carlos Avery Wildlife Refuge and beat him to death with a metal rod. 6 years old. He killed him just for seeing us. I found out later, and the guilt. Even though I know it wasn't my fault, I think about Jason's parents every single day. I had a 6-year-old son at home. I could picture it happening to him. The grief, the horror of what that family went through haunts me. He drove us to his house in Roseville. When he finally let us out of the trunk, we were in his garage. He took us inside and led us to a back bedroom. There was a closet there, a narrow closet. Inside was a light bulb with a pull chain, a scatter rug on the floor, and 2 throw pillows. "This is where you'll stay," he said. That closet became our prison for the next 7.5 weeks. That first night, he took me out of the closet. Beth was crying for me, terrified. He tied me to the furniture in his living room, and that's when he started talking. For 3 hours, he talked. He told me who he was. He told me about the grade, about his imagined grievances, about how I'd ruined his life. He told me what he planned to do to me, how he wanted to debase me as he felt I'd debased him. Then he forced himself on me. He videotaped it. And that became the horrific pattern of our days. He would go to work at the electronics store he owned during the day, keeping us locked in that closet. When he came home, he would take me out and assault me. He recorded everything. He forced me to do video interviews where I had to pretend everything was fine, that I was enjoying myself. Beth spent many days locked in a box in his van while he was at work. 8 hours in a hot box. My baby, 8 years old. I was locked in the closet, and she was in that van, and we couldn't comfort each other. He threatened constantly. He told me if we tried to escape, if we called for help, he would kill Irv and Steve. He'd been in our home. He knew where they were. I believed him. So I complied. I did what he wanted. I said what he wanted me to say, because I had to keep Beth alive. I had to keep my family safe. One time, when I didn't show him enough affection during an assault, he went to the closet and tried to suffocate Beth with plastic wrap. I screamed. I begged. I kissed him. I did whatever he demanded, just to make him stop hurting my daughter. The sound of her struggling to breathe is something I'll never forget. Around day 45, he told us his cousin had moved out and we could have the bedroom to ourselves instead of the closet. It was a tiny freedom, but we were still prisoners. We were still chained together. On Father's Day, June 15th, he let Beth call Irv. I listened as my little girl told her daddy that we were okay, that she didn't know when we were coming home. Irv asked to speak to the man holding us. Shiue told Beth no and made her hang up.
Hello, Irv speaking.
Hello, Dad?
Yes, Bethy. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Is Mommy okay?
Yes.
That's good. Oh,
Daddy,
yes?
Happy Father's Day.
Oh, thank you so much, sweetie.
We're fine, Dad.
Oh, I'm so glad.
We can't talk anymore.
When can you come home?
I don't know.
Can I talk?
Okay, Dad?
Can I talk to him?
No.
Okay, you call again.
See you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye, sweetie.
That brief call kept Irv going. It let him know we were still alive, but the pain in his voice, I could hear it even through Beth's words. Then Shiue decided to take us to Chicago. He rented a Winnebago and said we were going to a conference. Beth and I were tied to the floor of the RV. He told us we were tied to the gas line. If we pulled too hard, the whole thing would explode. He installed listening devices. If we called out for help, he said, he would kill as many people as possible. We drove to Chicago. At one point, some boys on skateboards came near the RV. I whispered, "Help me. Please help me." They laughed. They thought I was joking. They skated away. People ask me how we survived. How did you keep going? The answer is faith and love. Every single day, Beth and I prayed. We prayed for rescue. We prayed for strength. We prayed for Irv and Steve. And we had each other. When the lights went out in that closet and we were alone in the darkness, I would hold my daughter and tell her stories. I would sing to her softly. I would tell her we would get through this, even when I wasn't sure I believed it myself. She was so brave, so incredibly brave. She would comfort me when I was falling apart. She would whisper, "Mommy, it's going to be okay. God is with us." That's what kept me going. Her love, her faith, the desperate, fierce need to keep her alive. Day 53, July 7th, 1980. He went to work. We were back in his house, and he'd been allowing us to stay in the bedroom instead of the closet. But the door was still locked. We were still chained together. I don't know where the courage came from. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was divine intervention. But I looked at that door, and I thought, I have to try. I have to try to save us. I worked on the door hinges, the hinge pins. If I could just get them out, the door would come down even though it was locked. My hands were shaking. Beth watched me, hopeful and terrified at the same time. The pins came out. The door fell. We were free of that room, but we were still in his house, still chained together. I knew he could come home at any moment. We had to move fast. I found the phone in the kitchen. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely dial. When the dispatcher answered, I said, "This is Mary Stauffer, the Arden Hills kidnap victim, and I would like someone to come get us." There was a pause. Then the dispatcher said, "Is Jason with you?" My heart stopped. That's when I knew. That's when I knew that little boy had never made it home. "No," I whispered. The dispatcher told us to stay in the house, that police were on their way. But Beth and I looked at each other and we both knew we couldn't stay there. What if he came home before the police arrived? So we went outside, still chained together, and hid behind his RV in the driveway. Minutes felt like hours. Then I saw a police officer walking toward us with his gun drawn. He was expecting to find Shiue. Instead, he found a mother and daughter, chained together, emerging from behind that vehicle. "It's okay," he said. You're safe now. We were taken to the hospital. Irv and Steve met us there. The reunion. I can't even describe it. Irv held us and cried. Steve clung to his sister. We were together. We were alive. But we were also broken in ways I didn't fully understand yet. Shiue was arrested at his electronics store that same day. They took him to Ramsey County Adult Detention Center. We thought it was over. We thought we were safe. But even from jail, he continued to terrorize us. He offered another inmate, Richard Green, $50,000 to kill Beth and me. He wanted us dead so we couldn't testify against him. Green, thank God, told the FBI. There were 2 trials, a federal trial for the kidnapping and a state trial for Jason's murder. I had to testify. I had to sit in that courtroom and tell our story while he stared at me. During the federal trial in 1980, I made it through my testimony. He was convicted and sentenced to 30 years to life. But there would be another trial for Jason's murder. February 8th, 1981. The second trial. I was on the witness stand again. His attorney was asking me perfunctory questions. And then, without any warning at all, Shiue jumped up from his chair. He had a pocket knife. He'd smuggled it into the courtroom somehow. He charged at me. He slashed my face. From the middle of my chin, around my mouth, up onto my cheek. The courtroom erupted. Deputies tackled him. Blood was running down my face onto the white handkerchief someone had handed me. 62 stitches. That's what it took to close the wound. I still have the scar. Every time I look in the mirror, I see it. But you know what? That scar is also a reminder that I survived. He tried to silence me, to kill me, and he failed. After the attack, they bound him to his chair for the rest of the trial. He was convicted of second-degree murder and kidnapping. He received a 40-year sentence to run concurrently with his federal sentence. In court, he vowed that when he was released, he would find Beth and me and kill us. Even then, even after everything, his rage wasn't done. How do you recover from something like that? How do you move on? The truth is, you don't fully recover. You learn to live with it. You learn to carry it. But you don't let it define you. Irv and I made a decision. We weren't going to let Ming Sen Shiue ruin our lives. We weren't going to let him win. So in 1981, we went to the Philippines. We completed our missionary work. We raised our children. Beth and Steve both got married and have children of their own. We've been blessed with grandchildren. People are sometimes surprised by this, but Irv and I pray for Shiue. We pray for him because our faith teaches us to pray even for those who hurt us. We hate what he did. We despise his actions. But we don't hate him as a person. We pray that somehow he can find genuine remorse and peace, though I don't know if that's possible for him. I've shared my story over the years with church groups and survivors of violence, not because I want to relive it, but because I want people to know that there is life after trauma. Your trauma doesn't have to be the end of your story. In 2010, when Shiue became eligible for parole, there was a civil commitment hearing. They wanted to determine if he should be released or if he was still a danger. Beth and I went to that hearing. Psychologists testified that he remained a sexually dangerous person, that he'd received no treatment in prison, that he was highly likely to reoffend. The judge ruled that he would remain in custody indefinitely. He was denied parole in 2016 as well. When he spoke at that hearing, he read from lined sheets of paper, expressing remorse. But Beth and I looked at each other. We both knew. It wasn't real. It was rehearsed. Empty words. If you're watching this and you've been through something terrible, I want you to know something. You are not alone. You are not defined by what happened to you. Yes, you're changed. Yes, you carry scars, visible and invisible. But you're still here. You survived. Faith was everything to me during those 53 days. I questioned God. I asked why this was happening. But I also felt his presence in that closet. I felt him in my daughter's arms. I felt him in the strength I found when I didn't think I had any left. Beth and I talk about it sometimes, just the two of us. She's an incredible woman now, a mother herself. She told me once, "He didn't get to ruin our lives. He ruined his life." And she's right. We chose to live. We chose joy. We chose forgiveness, not because he deserved it, but because we deserved to be free from the weight of hatred. That closet, those 53 days, they were hell. But they don't define me. I'm a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a missionary, a survivor. I'm Mary Stauffer, and this is my story. I still think about Jason Wilkman. I think about the life he should have had. I think about his parents and the unimaginable loss they've endured. That little boy's death weighs on me, even though I know I couldn't have prevented it. And I think about all the other women and children who've been through similar ordeals. Some didn't survive. Some are still fighting their way back. If this story reaches even one person who needs to hear it, who needs to know that survival is possible, that healing is possible, then sharing these painful memories is worth it. The darkness doesn't get the final word. Love does. Faith does. Hope does. Thank you for listening to my story.
Thank you so much for spending time with this story. If it resonated with you and you'd like to hear more real-life survival tales, please tap the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. It's a big help and lets me know you're enjoying this kind of content. I'd also love to know whose story you'd like me to cover next. Drop your suggestions and thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement keeps the channel alive, and I appreciate every single one of you for listening. Stay safe, and I look forward to sharing another story with you soon.